Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Samuel Schallenberger, and I am here from College Programming and Orientation. This is another one of our installments in our online orientation series for our summer webinars. And today we are focused all on pre-registration, and you are over 400 strong in our viewers. So we're very excited to have all of you here as we discuss next week's events. So we do have representatives and panelists from College Academic Advising here to actually walk you through what that process is going to look like and go ahead and get you all of the information that you're going to need, let you ask any of the questions that you may need to ask ahead of time. We do have the Q&A function accessible. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see that you can go ahead and submit questions that way. We're going to go through the presentation first, and then at the conclusion of the advising presentation, we will have time to field some questions and answers. We may also type answers to you as well. Please keep them focused on College Academic Advising and the pre-registration process if possible. And as always, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted to our summer webinar series website very shortly. As soon as we're able to get it downloaded and posted, we will. So by the beginning of next week, you will be able to go back and revisit this if you need to. If you need to step away for a moment, or if you just want to rewatch any portion of the programming, you will be able to. But I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our friends in College Academic Advising, and I'm going to first send it over to Senior Academic Advisor, Steph Matos.
Thanks so much, Samuel. Welcome to the Autumn Pre-Registration webinar, the last of 3 webinars from the College Office of Academic Advising this summer. Our office is grateful to co-present today's webinar with the Office of the Registrar, which stewards student data, academic systems, and the classrooms for the university community. I'm Steph Matos, a senior advisor, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Assistant Dean of Students Tamar Daskin and Academic Advisor Shayna Bamer. We are fortunate to also have the Deputy University Registrar Zachary Schwartz presenting with us today. Our presentation will offer an introduction to the pre-registration process, the steps you can take to prepare for pre-registration, a review of where to find and how to interpret your placement test results, and a demonstration of the pre-registration navigation you will have access to next week from August 14th through 18th. During the presentation, I will be monitoring the chat function to aggregate and respond to questions, which we will answer out loud at the conclusion of the presentation. As Samuel previously mentioned as well, please keep your questions to the topic of the webinar. If you have other questions you would like to ask the advising office, please email your assigned academic advisor or college advising at advising@uchicago.edu following the presentation. As we get started, I would like to quickly share our learning outcomes with you for our time together. By viewing this webinar today, you will be able to define what pre-registration is, outline what to do to prepare for pre-registration, locate and interpret your placement test results in your UChicago student portal, and finally, navigate the pre-registration process and system screens you'll encounter in the UChicago portal. I will now turn the presentation over to Assistant Dean Tamar Daskin.
Thanks, Steph. Let's start by learning more about the pre-registration process and the registration process as a whole. The registration process at UChicago involves 2 main steps: pre-registration, which you will do next week, and add drop. Today, we're primarily talking about pre-registration. Pre-registration is the first step where students indicate their course preferences for each quarter of enrollment. A smidgen of history before we get into the how-tos. Before the pre-registration process existed, it was very difficult for students to get into their preferred courses and often involved students camping out on the quad to be the first in line for registration. In the 1990s, students advocated for a new system to even the playing field for getting into courses. That resulted in the pre-registration process we still use today. Pre-registration is not designed for students to get into every course they bid on, but it does allow the registrar to place a large percentage of the college student body into some of their top course choices. After that process is complete, students fill out the remainder of their schedule during the second step of registration, add drop. For our incoming students, pre-registration for autumn quarter courses takes place in the MyUChicago student portal. The portal will be open for pre-registration starting at 9 a.m. Chicago time on Monday, August 14th, and will stay open until 5 p.m. on Friday, August 18th, again, Chicago time. It's important you don't miss this window because there's no chance to make up pre-registration. During that window, you will place bids on your top course selections for autumn quarter. You'll be ranking your preferred course areas and specific courses, which we'll demonstrate shortly. Pre-registration is not first come, first served, so there's no advantage in rushing to get it done right at 9 a.m. on Monday. If you change your mind about your bids during the pre-registration week, you can go back in and update your rankings as many times as you'd like. Although there is not a higher likelihood of getting into specific classes by submitting your preferences early, we do recommend logging in early in the week just to make sure everything's working as expected. If you experience any issues or technical problems, please reach out to your academic advisor sooner rather than later so we can help facilitate resolving the issue. Once the pre-registration window closes, the resolution process takes place, which uses an algorithm to place students into courses. The algorithm looks at several factors when placing students in courses, such as seats available in the course, your personal ranking of the section, and your year of study. The algorithm prioritizes first and second year students for core courses, so you will have a higher priority for those courses than upperclassmen. Alternatively, older students will have preference for major courses like computer science, so it may be more difficult to get into those courses in your first quarter, but there's plenty of time to get into major courses later on in your first year and beyond. Once the resolution process has concluded, your final schedules will be visible in MyUChicago, your student portal, which is where everything begins. You will know your schedule by September 11th. The second part of the registration process, called add drop, is a time when you can make changes to your schedule in real time yourself. You'll learn more about this process during orientation week and will be able to participate in add drop starting the first week of classes. And now Shayna will talk about how you can best prepare for pre-registration.
Thanks, Tamar. So first off, in order to participate in pre-registration, you are required to meet with your academic advisor. Ideally, you will have met with your advisor at least once already this summer. So for everyone that did meet with their advisor, you discuss possible course options for the autumn, and you should have a plan for what you will bid on or rank as your top choices. If you have not met with your advisor, you should reach out to them to find a time to meet next week if possible. As the deadline to meet with your advisor is technically today, they may not be able to accommodate a meeting next week. If you do not meet with your advisor, you will not be able to participate in the pre-registration process, but you will be able to create your autumn schedule by meeting with your advisor during the orientation week. If you are unable to participate in pre-registration and you have met with your advisor this summer, then they are aware of what courses you are interested in and planning to take, so they will try to build you a basic schedule in advance of orientation week, which at that time you can make changes if needed. For those of you who will be participating in pre-registration, the first step to prepare is to note your humanities course information. You will receive your placement test results today, and then you can use your placements to start to find courses for autumn. In My Classes, which we'll show shortly, you will see the course listed with the dates and times. This is an example here. And you will then explore the course offerings by looking at the class search portal in MyUChicago, also known as My Classes. So My Classes provides the detailed information about the courses being offered each quarter. You can find class times, locations, and the number of open seats for each course. You can also find a link to course evaluations, which has feedback from students that took the course in the past. So this is Class Search, and this is what you will see when you go in there. So firstly, you can filter by department to see what is being offered. This example shows American Sign Language offerings. When you click on the course, we can see the instructors, days and times, and location of the course. We are also able to filter by attribute, which is primarily used to find core offerings. For this example, we can see the many options for the art core requirement. This specific example of Art V101 is a great example to highlight where to find additional information, including the Pre-Reg, which we'll see again shortly. And for our final example, we can search for specific courses or use keywords in the search box function. If I know I want Chem 111, then I can search for that here, and we can see all of the lab sections, and we can also see the prereq listed here of placement into Chem 111 or 121 or higher. Also, right here is where we would click to find the course feedback about the course. Additionally, you can prepare for pre-registration by refamiliarizing yourself with the core requirements by watching the core webinar recording. You can also review the new student advising web pages, such as first quarter schedules and the FAQ. The college catalog has information on major requirements and prerequisites, so you can review this as well to brush up on what your major interests require. This is especially important because you will not be able to get into a course if you do not have the specific prerequisite. Take CS 141 as an example. We have this screenshot here. Only students that have a math placement or have a math 151 placement or higher will be able to take this course in autumn. If you place into math 131 or math 105, you will not be able to take this course until you've completed math 131.
Now we're going to briefly discuss your placement results. Your placement test results are now available in your MyUChicago portal on the My Academics page. These placements are based on your performance on the placement test that you took and any AP or IB scores you may have submitted if applicable. Use these placement results to inform your pre-registration choices so you know you're selecting the appropriate courses. For example, if you receive placement into Math 131, you should not select Math 151 in your pre-registration, since the system will not allow you to get into a course without the proper placement. If you did not take your placement exams, you should take them immediately and notify your advisor once you have completed them. Your scores will need to be manually added to your account now that the deadline has passed. So notifying your advisor when you've completed that is a very important step. Now we'll move into some examples of your MyUChicago portal. This is a view of your MyUChicago homepage. In order to find your placement results, navigate to the My Academics page, which you can see here on the right-hand side. Once you've navigated to the My Academics page, you will notice a tab in the middle labeled Test Results. This is where you'll find your placement test results along with any AP scores we have received. Like with the example earlier, the student placed into Math 131 or Math 112 or 113. So they should not pre-register for Math 151 as they will not be able to get into that course. If you have questions about your placements, you're welcome to reach out to your advisor. And now Zach is going to take us through a live demonstration of what pre-registration looks like.
Hey, Zach, we can't hear you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. When you log into My.UChicago, you will, as Tamar indicated, be able to see your test results within the portal and can review those prior to going into first-year pre-registration. When you are ready to participate in pre-registration, you can just click on the first-year pre-registration link here. And this will look familiar to anyone who participated in the first round of humanities pre-registration. It is the same questionnaire that you would have seen when you logged in to select your humanities course preferences. So if the answers to these questions have changed for you since you participated in humanities pre-reg, you can feel free to change those answers, or if they have not, you can feel free to let them stay as they have been answered and just move on to next. So when you land on this first page for first year pre-reg, you will see that the courses are organized in curricular groups. And the first step that we would recommend that you take is to rank each of these groups in order of the preferences that you have identified for the courses that you would like to take in your first quarter. And this is entirely up to you in terms of the priority that you would like to place on these. So for example, you can place civilization studies first, social sciences core third. And as you enter these options, the group ranks will be removed so that there's no risk of you ranking anything the same twice. Once you have completed all of these rankings, you can click the Save and Sort button. And what this will do is then open up additional options to fill the slots within the curricular groups with the actual courses that are eligible within those areas. So for example, within civilization studies, when you click search, the only courses that are going to be returned within this search are the ones that are eligible to be added within civilization studies. So when you have identified the course that you would like to add into that particular slot, you can just hit the add button, confirm that you want to add it, and that will place it directly into that particular field. And then as you continue to search through the options, if you do want to find a particular course within here that you've already found in the course search, sometimes the easiest way is just to use Control F if there are a lot of courses that are returned. So you can jump just to the 151 options and find the section that you have preferred, add that into your selections and proceed. So once you have filled these slots, you have a few different options to confirm status. If at any time you just kind of want a more concise view of the order that you have assigned to the classes that you've selected, you can always use this view to see where you have placed the courses that you hope to take. And then if you do want to make any changes to this, you can just do so by changing the priorities on the groups or within the selections. And that will, after you hit Save and Sort, shuffle everything into your new preference and be reflected on that summarized ranks. So our recommendation is to fill out as many of these selections as possible based on the courses that you have found and that are of interest to you for your first quarter. Once you are ready to finalize your requests, you can go ahead and hit Submit. This will not prevent you from accessing the system again to edit your selections. You can do that at any point and as many times as you would like during the pre-registration window. But what it will do is send an email to you just confirming what your requests are so that you can have that for your records. The other thing that I want to call out, in addition to the test results that you can see on the My Academics area of the portal, you can always use this View Test Results view within first year pre-registration to help guide just within the experience here on which course to select within the placement result window. So once we have collected all ranked choices for all students who have participated in the first year pre-registration process, we will run all of those requests through a resolution process. The most important part of this resolution process for these requests is the priority that you have placed on the class that you have selected. So if you indicate that you want the mathematical sciences group more than any other group, and that you hope to get into Math 151, Section 11, more than any other class, that is the first class that we will attempt to resolve you into. So it is important to order those classes in order of your preference. We will not try to register you in something that you have ranked lower over something that you have ranked higher. The other considerations here as you do rank these related to the resolution process is that You should not plan to request anything that conflicts, that creates a time conflict with anything that you are already registered for, specifically your humanities registration, because we will not be able to register you in 2 courses that meet at the same time or overlap in any way. And you should also plan not to request any classes, as Tamar had mentioned, that may have hard-coded prerequisites or that have consent. If you do request those classes, although you may be able to request them, the resolution process will not be able to seat you in the class if you do not meet the actual hard-coded prerequisite, or if there is consent in place on the course that would prevent you from getting in without that consent. And consent can be pursued during the add drop period, where more information will come later. So this is a high-level overview of the process, and I'm happy to answer any questions when we get to that point of the presentation. For now, I'll turn it back over to Tamar.
I'll actually take it back over, but thank you, Zach. And I'm going to share my screen again just with some dates here. If we could, Zach, if I could ask you to stop sharing your screen. Thank you. And let's finish it up. So we're almost ready for the Q&A, but some final reminders about key dates. So next week, the first year pre-reg will open, as Tamar mentioned, so 9 a.m. Chicago time, and it will close at 5 p.m. on Friday, Chicago time. So your schedule will be finalized by Monday, September 11th. So you may see changes to your registration up until that date. Starting on Tuesday, the 19th, you may meet with your advisor to discuss questions or possible changes to your schedule. And then add drop will open on the first day of classes, which is Tuesday, September 26th. And we will review this process during the orientation week, so you will be aware of how to participate in add drop. Finally, you will have until Friday, October 13th to drop any courses, and we'll talk about that during our week as well. And that leads us to the end of our presentation. So we covered a lot of information, and I'm sure that there are many questions you have. You may have questions that are specific to your placement results. So we will try to avoid going too in-depth on situational questions. Your advisor is the person to ask all your individual questions. So Steph, what questions do we have?
Great, thank you, Shayna. Yeah, again, there are some more personalized questions as well in the chat. So if we don't get to respond to those, you're not seeing them. I tried to let a few folks know, please go to see your academic advisor for some that I could clearly see should be ones that should be conversations with your advisor. So again, if you don't get a response for us today in this chat, please, again, reach out to your assigned advisor or advising in general at advising at uchicago.edu. So to get us started with some focus questions that are more generalized, I have quite a few related to placement and also some things within the registration system. So to start us out, our first question is, many core classes are appearing to some students as already filled after continuing students had their pre-reg, which happened earlier this August. How do first years have priority for almost already filled classes?
I'll jump in here. So it depends which courses you're looking at. I will say that for humanities, everybody's already registered in that. If you're not, please contact your advisor immediately. For a lot of other common core classes like SOC, we do reserve seats for first years. So please don't worry if your preferred SOC section appears to be full. A few more specifics. So most biological science and physical science classes are available for upperclassmen to register for. I believe most of those are offered in other quarters, but reach out to your advisor if you're confused about which ones may be offered in other quarters, and there may be additional seats coming. We'll confer with the department, the registrar will. But if something looks like it's full, do make a backup plan for other options you may wish to be enrolled in.
And just touching on the priority part of it. So autumn for incoming students is just a little bit different than the rest of pre-registration. So for winter quarter, you will have priority for certain classes. You're going to be participating in pre-registration along with all of the other students. So for those core classes, the priority is second year students, first year students, third and fourth year. So it's just this autumn where it's a little bit different.
Okay, our next question is, if I place in the second quarter of a class, do I have to wait until second quarter to start the class?
No, depends on the class, I guess. But for math, I'm assuming this is probably related to math. 152 might be a placement, 153. So those are options for the autumn. If you place into like the second part of a sequence, it might be offered in the autumn. So it just depends on the sequence. Sequences like physics and chemistry, those are only offered in sequential orders. So, 112 would only be in winter. So you would not take something in the autumn.
And then can we pre-reg for classes that require consent? If yes, how do you get consent?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Zach.
Although in some cases you will be able to request for a class with consent, the resolution process will not allow you to get in if the consent is in place on the class. So consent will open after the pre-registration process. I think more details on that will come at a later time from advising, but it entails a separate process through which you would request consent from the instructor. They could review that consent and determine whether or not the seat can be made available, but that process would be limited to ad drop and not to pre-reg.
We'll jump in and say there's one exception for this quarter only, which is that Professor Sanderson's sections of Principles of Macro and Principles of Micro are being held for first years. So feel free to bid on those if you want to be in those classes.
Can I take a language class at a lower level than I qualified for? And I think this can translate for, more generally, we can ask, can I register for a class that is lower than any placement I might have received?
I'm going to say no. Please register for the class you placed into. The placement tests are pretty good. They're pretty good at assessing your level and what's the appropriate level for your current knowledge and experience. So please register for the class that you have placement for. We don't want you to spin your wheels learning stuff you've already learned. You're just going to be bored. This is not a place to be bored and spin your wheels. You're here to learn new things. So please register for the courses you placed into.
What do I do if I got an invitation for the higher level math placement exam?
Good question. So I believe there is a webinar being held later next week that would, or maybe later this month, to talk about the higher level exam.
Actually, thanks, Shayna. The math webinar that will give you a little bit more information about placements and what class to take, specifically if you have a placement that's an array of class options. That webinar will be 10 a.m. Monday, this coming Monday, the 14th. So please see the CPO webinar page for the link for that webinar.
And then now we're going to get a little bit more into some of the registrarial questions. How do I indicate rank if I plan to take 2 courses of the same group? Example, 2 courses in the math department.
Yeah, and wherever a group has more than one slot under it, I think the smallest number of slots available is 3 or 4. We recommend that you fill them all, and you can pick as many from that group as you would like to pick. So ultimately, we would only be able to register you in one of those from each group. So you can pick in order of your preference from those sections. You don't have to pick just one section of a particular course. You can pick multiples, and you would not be registered in more than one of them.
And follow up to that, for students who are interested in molecular engineering, they may also be considering taking physics and chemistry at the same time. And so this is something similar to the math, where you won't be resolved into both, but that is something that the process during the schedule review process that will be reviewed and looked at by your advisor. And we can always meet during the O week to address any concerns about schedule changes.
Do you have to rank each section if you don't want to take a certain core class in the autumn quarter?
No, you don't have to rank every section. If you know for sure that you don't want to do civilizations in autumn, you can just not rank that section. Doesn't hurt to rank the section, especially for backup purposes. But if you are definitely certain that you do not want X category, then you do not have to put anything in there.
What is the purpose of skip group? Does it help indicate that you aren't interested in taking that core class?
The skip just allows you the option to remove it from your list of preferences that you are submitting. So similar to what Shane had just indicated, there's really no negative to including a selection and just deprioritizing it. It just gives you an additional chance to get into a course that you might be interested in before ad drop opens. But if for some reason, you just completely want to remove a particular group from your selections, it would allow you to do that.
Would you rank multiple of the same course if it varies on professor / time, etc.? So this is what we call sections, is the lingo we use here. So would you rank multiple sections of the same course?
You certainly can. If the course offers multiple sections and that is the course that you are hoping to get into, then ranking multiple sections of that class will increase the chances that you are able to be seated in one of those sections.
And if there are multiple things that you're interested in, take social sciences, for example, if there are several different sequences that you would be open to, or if there are preferred dates and times, you can also, put that in order of your preference.
Here's a question of nuance here. What does it mean to be placed into a course versus invited to a course?
Great question. Okay, so this is most likely, I'm guessing, in reference to math placements. So math has a system where you took the placement exam, right? The placements include information from that placement exam, IB scores if applicable, AP scores if applicable. So there's a complicated array of things that go into determining placement. So if you're placed into a class, you can just register in those classes. That's a great option. It may do, like if you have a placement for math 152 or 152.50 or 183, which is very possible, which class you take may depend on what direction you want to go with your studies. A lot of people will have invitations to advanced courses. So we have honors calculus is an option, invitation to the higher level math exam is an option. And those are not mandatory. If you don't want to take honors calculus, you don't have to take honors calculus. But if you're interested in going the direction of honors calculus, which studies calculus at a higher level and somewhat differently than the standard calculus sequence, you're welcome to register for that class if that's your preference. And if you have questions about the more detail about math placements, will be in that math webinar on Monday. So if you have questions about it, I strongly recommend attending that. For people invited to the higher level math exam and choose to take it, there will be another math webinar in September that covers the options that are the outcomes of that higher level math exam.
And then another kind of clarity of terms. What's the difference between registering and bidding for classes? Do those happen at different dates?
Yeah, so if you hear the word bidding, that is essentially the pre-registration process. You're placing a request on a class that you hope to get in through the pre-registration process. When we attempt to resolve all the requests for those classes and seat you in the class, you've placed a bid on a class, pre-registered for it, and ideally are able to be seated in it if there are enough seats available in the class. When you register for a class directly, typically you're participating in ad drop. And the distinction is that if the seat is available during ad drop and you meet the prerequisites and there are no other elements in place on the course, such as consent that would prevent you from getting into it, you can just add yourself directly into that seat live and see it reflected on your schedule right away.
And I think this might be a course search question. The question is, where is the link to see options of classes and seats available?
Good. Sorry.
So if you head over to your MyU Chicago portal on I believe this is the right-hand side, there's several links. One of those is My Classes. Click that link and it'll take you to the schedule or the class search. We call it class search, My Classes for autumn quarter. Make sure that the dropdown is flipped to autumn 2023, and then you can search for any class that's being offered in autumn.
Is it possible to get into different sections of the same course, or are you only given the section you ranked highest?
You would only be able to be successfully resolved into one section of the same course. And we would always try to resolve you into your highest preference of those sections that still has seats available to place you in.
Can we bid on courses that are conflicting times with one another? Will the algorithm only place you into one of those courses?
What our recommendation is to request classes that do not conflict with the course that you were already registered in, your humanities course, because that is a known quantity in your schedule at this point. But for anything else, you can try to pick classes that meet at entirely different times. The resolution process will not seat you in classes that have a direct time conflict. So if there is any overlap in the meeting patterns of the classes, it would only seat you if space is available in the first one, and then the remainder of those selections would have a outcome associated with them that said you can't be seated due to a time conflict.
You mentioned that first years have seats reserved in the social science core classes. If all sections of a particular social science sequence core class are listed as filled, can first years still pre-register for them?
Without going into too much of the nitty-gritty, yes, feel free to still place bids on those.
So that's my end of the list there for kind of the ones that rose to the surface. Otherwise I'm seeing a lot of questions that are a bit more personalized to the individual student or might be a bit off topic. Again, it should be referred back to your assigned academic advisor. So I just want to encourage anyone who didn't get an answer to any question they still have to reach out to your advisor and we can provide clarity and answer those for you.
And that's the end. Thanks for attending, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. The recording of this webinar will be posted on the Summer Webinar Series website as soon as possible. Thanks for being here. Have a good one.